Hey everyone, Shiv here. So we got Black Rock Mountain coming out here very, very soon. I'm really excited about this. I'm so happy. I can't even tell you. I'm literally just ecstatic. So I was talking to a couple people early in the morning, ironically enough, because I woke up early. I don't know why. And these were people I played with back during CBT, and they want to get back into the game, and it was like, oh, wow, they've added so much stuff. I wonder how much this is going to cost me. And it really made me think, how much would this game actually cost a person who is coming into it brand spanking new? All right? And then I was like, well, yeah, that's going to be quite a bit. And then I added a condition on there. Let's say they wanted to, they saw this game, they thought it was really cool, and they thought, hey, I'd like to be competitive within 3 months. What would it take? How much would it take? Because I'm sorry, 3 months, you're definitely spending money. I don't give a fuck who the fuck you are. You're spending some cash somewhere. All right? So I started breaking it down. Well, what does it take to actually be competitive? Well, knowing your classes and knowing how to play the game, that's a huge amount of it. But having the tools available is the rest of it, all right? You can know like every proper play in the book, but if you don't have the right tools, you might as well be pissing in the wind, all right? So collection matters. Now there are a lot of people who tell you, well, yes, but you can make, legend without ever having, you just use free-to-play decks. Yes, you can. It's been done before, and by very select few individuals who have a talent and are very skillful. The average person probably not going to do that. To be perfectly honest with you. All right, so what's it going to take? What's it going to take cash-wise? So I started looking at how I went about this. Now, I'm not a great example of this because I've been playing since, well, actually before we had a client. So, but if you started in basically OBT, you got to keep your collection once it went live. I thought that was kind of interesting. And from there, that was really kind of cool in its own way. Um, so when it went live, or went OBT, we had a lot of people just constantly grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding. So I had like a year plus of grinding out gold because I didn't really want to spend money in it. Eventually, I was given a $20 card, and then I spent 20 of my own, and so I ended up buying some packs here or there. For a while there, I'd only basically spent like bought 30 packs. And I spent like another $3 for the 2 packs just to get a golden Geblin, but still, he's golden, he's pretty, wanted him. Um, and then, my collection started growing and growing, and I started making some of these very wonky, weird budget decks that people are like, what the hell is this crap? Why is this working? This shouldn't work, and it was fun. But I started wanting to be a little bit more competitive. This was right before I got sick, by the way. So I started like investing even more time in grinding gold, and I was putting a little bit more into it. Now I got sick, so my grinding ability and my cash funds diminished dramatically. And by the way, if you don't know, by sick I mean cancer. If you've ever been through cancer, trust me, you ain't got no money after that. So yeah, that diminished. I went through all the treatments and everything, and I came back. Still a little punchy and not completely as cognitive as I'd like to be. Yay, chemotherapy. But I still had a desire to play. And I started hitting it hard. I started grinding gold dramatically, started putting forth money into the game, and I built my collection. So to give you an idea here, when it came to GVG, which let's just go ahead and pull this up. When it came to GVG, right, I put in, what was it, $70 cash. Not a bad amount. I also had 22 gold wait, or 2,200 gold waiting to buy 22 more packs. Okay, that's quite a bit. That was like 82, yeah, 82 packs right there. And I also bought like another 15 on top of that. So here's what I ended up getting out of that. This is all the GVG cards. And I've got it in crafting mode, so you see the ones I did not get. That's not bad, ladies and gentlemen. That is not bad. Now, a couple of them I have had to craft over the course of doing things. Dr. Boom being one of them. I did have to craft a second Sky Golem. There was another one too. Oh, Blinktron I had to craft, to be perfectly honest with you. I think there was one more, and I'm really kind of stretching on it. And it'll come to me. But, oh, Vol'jin I had to craft. Coghammer I crafted. One of the Quartermasters I had to craft. So, but, I mean, that was, I invested in it, and I had a lot of duplicates left over, so that was fine. But, as you can see, I got a great amount of the collection. Now, obviously, results may vary. But I got a great amount of the collection. And that wasn't that much money, to be perfectly honest. But then I started thinking, like, well, how much have I spent on Classic? I mean, not just, you know, cash money, because I probably haven't spent any cash money on Classic. No, that's not true. I've spent $45 on Classic, which is the... No, not 45. 60 on Classic. 20 of which was a donation. And from that, I can honestly tell you that equals out to 45 packs. The rest of it was ground out. So let's... Gee, Notice that time investment got me almost everything I needed. And that's exactly what it did. Time investment. But again, we're not talking about time investment. We're talking about how much it's actually going to take to get here. How much would it actually take for a person to grind out what they would need to be competitive in Hearthstone? What it would take money-wise, you know, because 3-month time frame. All right, so I started doing the math here. 3 months time, that's 100 packs easily. All right, if you really want to invest the time and do what you got to do, that's 100 packs easily. So, yeah, I know I don't have Malagos. That's my one sad point. Or Death one. So, okay, so 100 packs right there. Bam. And then what else would be needed? Well, automatically you can add $60 to that for Cursed Naxxramas and Black Rock Mountain, because those are going to be huge parts of the game. You're going to need them. Seriously, you're going to need them. You can't be competitive without it, because I'm sorry, Sludge Belcher, Mad Scientist, Loatheb, that right there, Shaded Naxxramas, boom. Death Spite, boom. There were many great cards. 30 cards, about 15 of them were very useful. All right? Half that set was very useful. Now, there's the argument. It's like, oh, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, let me ask you this. If you were to spend that same 30 bucks and we're having to buy packs to try to get 15 very high-value cards, what's the likelihood you'd get that? Pretty nil. You might have gotten one. This... less of an option. So it's definitely worth paying the money for. And in all honesty, from what we saw at Black Rock Mountain, oh yeah, just week 1 is worth it. Just because of Emperor Thursday. Boom, done. And the, you know, high Face Hunter gets even more powerful. So, yeah, it's worth the money. It really is worth the money, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so that's 60 right there. But now, what's it really going to take? Well, like I said, about $100 investment into GVG is probably a good thing. You're going to get a buttload of duplicates. But you know what? You should always start with the GVG because it's a smaller set, which means it's a lot easier to complete. And you'll get a lot more duplicates, which you can use to craft the things that you didn't get and or things that you really want for your deck designs that you're really wanting to try and make these decks that are really good. Because there are a lot of great decks out there that people have done well with. And of course, you know, people are going to follow the trends of others. It's called net decking for a reason, people. Alright, so 100 in GVG, fine. But now, here's the sad truth. Classic makes up a huge amount of the meta. most deck designs are almost entirely of classic cards, and GVG and Nax and even BRM are going to be more flavorful than actual cores, okay? No matter how you try to look at it, you're always going to need the value of the classic set. Now, once more sets get introduced, likelihood that you might actually need the classic set gets reduced quite often. Because we have seen many cards introduced that have replaced classic cards that had a pretty good value. Case in point, Chillwind Yeti, Piloted Shredder. Alright. So, you're still going to need classic. And here's the problem with that. Classic is 3 times as big as GVG was. Now, there are a lot of really crappy cards in Classic. Case in point, Bestial Wrath, Hungry Crab, Angry Chicken. You know, there are a lot of cards that you're never going to use. I mean, you never really want. I mean, have Bloodsail Corsair. Alright, so these aren't really cards you're really going to need, so, yeah. But there are definitely ones you will. Sylvanas, Acolytes of Pain, Big Game Hunter, Cold Light Oracles. Mind Control Tech, definitely there's one right there. You see what I'm getting at. There's just Raging Worgen, which, yeah, Raging Worgen. Dark Iron Dwarf still has a place. Defender of Argus still has a place. Twilight Drake still has a place. Violet Teacher, definitely. Faceless Manipulator, argument there for Leroy Jenkins, Azure Drakes. There's so many of these cards that are permanent parts of the meta. Sylvanas, the Black Knight. So you kind of have to have them. You really do. So, yeah, spending money on classic sets to try to get some of these is really great. But guess what? Much like with GVG, you're going to get a lot of duplicates. For some odd reason, that's just how it works. And from those duplicates, you could craft the ones you didn't get that you really need. So, the basic premise here is you get 4 decks you really, really want to focus on. Now, normally I would say 3, but you look at some of these formats and you kind of have to bring 4 anyway. So, 4 decks. Focus on those 4 decks. Try to make it to where they have a lot of cards that interchange, i.e. like 3 of the decks use Sylvanas. Hey, that's great. Or they all use, I don't know, Death Rattle minions or Ragnaros or something. You get what I'm saying with this. Alright? That's going to help out. That's going to help out greatly in this. Now, does that mean your deck is going to be the strongest? No. But it's simpler from a collection standpoint to competitive standpoint. Now, once you have actually started collecting and all that, and you go and you turn around, you actually figure out the value of your collection. Here's what it breaks down to. For my entire collection of what I have, and I started kind of figuring this out on the, if I was to spend money on all this to get it within a 3-month time span, and it basically boiled down to $400. It's going to boil down to $400 because $60 for the 2 adventure modes, because I've already paid for the Blackrock Mountain, so I'm going to have those automatically. Naxxramas, I ground out the gold myself. All right. Which that's actually a loss for me if you actually really want to go and count on that. But you count all the GVG, you count all the classic cards, and you throw it into packs and everything of that nature, and then you throw even more crap into it because you're going to get so many duplicates. And it started coming out to basically 140 on GVG, 200 on classic, and then the 60 for the 2 adventures. So, yeah, that's 400 right there. $400. And you could be somewhat competitive within 90 days. Now, that's also including 100 packs you're going to be getting in that 100-day time. So, yeah, just from grinding the gold and buying packs with it, that's 100 more. And, by the way, that's all. Those packs you're buying should be classic because of the greater amount of cards in classic. So, yeah, that's what it's going to take to actually be competitive within 90 days of playing Hearthstone at this point right now in the game. Any later than this, when they've added another pack expansion, when they've added another adventure, obviously it's going to be more. So those who start in the beginning obviously have the advantage. But you know what? You're not completely out of this. You are never completely out of this. I played Magic the Gathering for quite some time. I was a DCI for it. Good times. Whenever there was a core block and then the 2 supplement expansions that came out, I was spending way more than 400 to get all that. Way more. Now, yes, there's the argument that you could trade and sell and get, yeah, that's fine. But I'd also like to point out, you still had to carry most of your collection around with you. You still had to like protect your cards in order to keep their inherent value. Lots of stuff like that. You had to buy all this extra crap, and you always had to keep replacing it, and it was a nightmare. Here, not so much. Not to mention, I had to go to special places for tournaments. I had to go to special places to play with people. I could sit on my crapper taking a dump and kick the crap out of you and make you the most salty person in the world off a fucking tablet. Right there, huge value Hearthstone. So it's worth the investment. And I'm a poor man. I really am. I'm dirt broke. And I will tell you right now, this is definitely worth the investment. I would tell anybody, if you want to be competitive, you got to pay the money. But Shiv, you know, I don't have money. I don't have a job. Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. If you're sitting around playing this game all day long and you have no money and you have no job, well, maybe you should really re-examine your priorities in life, because I'm pretty sure having a job would be more important than playing this game. But I'm a kid. Well, then your ass needs to go to school so you can get a job. Or better yet, mow a lawn. All right, come on. There's no excuse on this, guys. Really, there isn't. Anyway, this is Shiv saying thank you very much for watching. These are my 2 cents on what it takes to be competitive in Hearthstone for the common person. Again, this is an opinion piece. It's not a real factual basis, because the RNG of packs in general is just all kinds of fucked up. So it's a rough guide. And I know some of you are going to have some problems with what I said. That's fine. You know where the comment section is. Leave it there. I'll either ignore it or tell you 9 different ways why you're an idiot. Till next time, stay safe, have fun, and may our Jesus bless you.